What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Absolute Auction Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Miner, and with me is my good friend from the Face Off Sports Network, Seth Keller. Seth, what's going on?
What's up, Brian? How you been, man?
Doing good, doing good. We just got done talking about youth football for about a good 45 minutes before jumping on here. But
Yes.
we can't stop talking about it, man. Like we're like, hey, we got a podcast to record, and we're like, oh yeah, we should probably get going here, but that's our hobby outside of this, I feel like, and we can relate on a lot of things. So
Oh yeah.
that's why it's great to relate on something else besides fantasy football.
Oh yeah.
But hey, you can follow Seth at FFD at Home Dad. You can follow me at RyanMiner_FFB. And don't forget to follow the show at FF Auction Pod, as we are also a proud member of the Face Off Sports Network.
Woo.
And today, I'm happy to have Seth here because he is the brains behind this project. I came up with the idea. He made it functionally work, and I am happy to go live with it. And that is Dynasty Auction Value, Seth,
Yeah.
which you can find over at fffaceoff.com. But Seth, I'm gonna bring it up here real quick, man. I'll let you take it away. Explain exactly what you did here when you built this, because I am absolutely in love with it.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm the brain, then we'll give you the brawn aspect of it. Because what you're doing is really the meat and potatoes behind this, right? This is I just take all the data and make it look pretty. But really this is a lot of work that you're doing, being in these dynasty auction drafts, either mocks or live ones. I know you and I have talked about this already about, we want to try and get them as real as possible. And so I know these are some that have already been real drafts, as well as some mock ones mixed in there. And then what I do is I just compile all of that data into one spot so that we get a view at what are people kind of valuing certain players at, and that now can be turnkeyed to your typical auction, auction player, and be able to say like, hey, I really like this guy. I wonder what I should be thinking this person's value is going to be in an upcoming draft. And you can start trying to plan around it. So if you're like, I want Devin A. Chain on my team. I know I want him on my team. No, like that this is the guy I'm going after. You can search by name and just find Devin A. Chain. You can search by position, get all the running backs, but we go and we type in Devin A. Chain and click the only button there, right there.
On it now.
Now that's the only guy that's showing up there. And now you get Devin A. Chain. This is just this guy. You can jump right in. You can find their value. The most people have spent for him. So right now, like he's got a pretty wide range of values here. So that can kind of help you start to plan out. If I'm saying, hey, I want to walk away with this guy on my team, I might need to be willing to drop $50 on him in order to get him on my team. Or I might be able to get him for a value and get him somewhere in the low 20s. And now I'm feeling real good about it because now I got a little extra spending cash for the time the next person comes around. What's really nice is when you click on a certain player, you can actually compare them to another player as well. So if we go back to the search by name and we go ahead and type in A Chain in there again, and you just click only for A Chain, and maybe we want to compare him to Jonathan Taylor, right? So now if you type in Taylor and check him off, just do the check, not the only. And now I get both of those guys next to each other. And if you scroll down, we got a chart here. Some of the dates have, I'm gonna throw Ryan under the bus here. I'm gonna say some of the dates haven't been the most accurate pieces of data yet. Even though all the drafts are, these are longer drafts also. So we're just playing around, Ryan. But you get a little graph here as we get further and further throughout the year, you'll be able to see over time what has been going on with this person's value, right? And so when we get to August, you'll be able to look all the way back to now, and you'll be able to say, like, hey, pre-draft, maybe the Dolphins go out and draft a running back. Pre-draft, this is what A-Chain's cost was like. After the draft, this is what happened to it. When we started getting news out of training camps, then this happened to it. Then we started getting news in the preseason, and then this happened to it. My draft is in late August. Now this is where I'm thinking that I want his value to end up being. And it's a really useful tool to get that gauge of what people are valuing different players at.
And I love it, man. Like you said, like I went and got all the drafts for you. I gave you all the data for it, and you compiled it all together to make it work like this. And I think this is great because, like how you said, you can see from beginning to end of, like, if anything happens between now and the NFL draft and after the draft, you can see that drop or increase, in value. Do people lose value? Do they gain value? And I love it because I'm able to actually build, like, I'm obsessed with par sheets, and I've talked about par sheets many times on the show about building different par sheets to understand what values can I get based on if I want Jaden Daniels as my quarterback, or Lamar Jackson as a quarterback, or what if I want a top end wide receiver like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson? This gives me an idea range of what you can look to spend. So yeah, like, you might say, okay, I'd love to get Justin Jefferson for $29, but I also might have to spend as much as 40 plus for him. You almost have to kind of adjust on the fly at that point and understand as you're doing your par sheet. And I always tell people, don't just make one, make multiple. Like I said, I usually make 2 to 3, sometimes 4, depending how weird things start getting. But I usually try to stick with 3 because it seems like a typical standard for me of super flex. I'm always either going quarterback, PPR. It's always going to be heavy wide receiver. And then if it's tight end premium, I'm looking at a higher end tight end. If not, then I'm shifting to wide receiver. But this is a great tool. I love this tool. And like, I guarantee you, like, people are going to be looking at it on the site and trying to understand how can they find values in it.
Yeah.
And one issue I've heard about this one is, okay, let's go back. I mean, we have 502 players that were drafted, and this includes rookies also. And that's what's great too, is you actually have an idea of rookies who were drafted. But let's say, like, here we have, player number 39, Bucky Irving. He's a running back a lot of people love. Max of 21, minimum 17. But, so say you budget yourself, all right, I'll give myself $21 to get Bucky Irving. He goes for 25. It's going to happen. Like, people have to understand that not one or any other auction draft it's ever going to be the same compared to, like, a snake draft. A snake draft will be like, you'll say, oh, yeah, I'm going to take Bucky Irving in the 3rd round no matter what. And everyone takes him in the 3rd round. But when it comes to auction, it's those precious dollars that you're trying to understand those values of understanding, like, yeah, okay, if he's over $21, let's say he hits 25, 26, then you afford that $5 to $6. Use a par sheet. Understand that if I get this player at this cost, where am I taking away from? But at the same time, it could also go the other way and say you get him for 16. Now you saved yourself $4. So why not go that way? If we save $4 to $5. So this is a fun tool to use. I love it, Seth. It was one of my big pieces I used last year in my auction drafts and my redraft auction drafts with Adam. And I actually use it in our Absolute Auction Listener League to kind of get an idea to see what people spend, because no matter what draft you're in, there's always a big spender. And we saw that last week in our mock draft. It was the Autobots. They were big spenders, but that will show up on here too. Like, you'll see the max issue of, like, some players going for $100 some. It's possible someone will spend 50% of their budget on one player just to get them.
Yep. And to that point, another thing that you can do in terms of preparation, either preparation beforehand or preparation, trying to be prepared for the next go around, actually in the moment while you're in the draft, is with a tool like this, you can sort by position. And so I can sort this by position, and if I'm looking this way, it's because I got my other big computer screen over this way. I can sort this by position, and we'll keep going with Bucky Irving, right? his average value is $19. He's right around other running backs like Derrick Henry, James Cook, Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, that are all going for, their ranges are more spread out than what Bucky's is, right? And
Right.
so maybe, a guy like Kenneth Walker, who has a much lower minimum value than Bucky does, like you pretty much in a 12-person draft, you're going to have somebody that likes Bucky Irving, right? You may have 11 people that are not as sold on him, but you're probably going to have one person that's going to at least get it to that 17 mark. Whereas a guy like Kenneth Walker, if I'm like, man, I missed out on Bucky because it went closer to, it went more, it went up to like 25. Maybe our draft is the one that's setting the curve, and we got a whole lot of Bucky lovers in our draft, right? I can now shift and look at just the positions here and go, all right, well, who's somebody that I know other people might typically spend up on, but in this draft, because other running backs have already been gone, maybe I can get a Kenneth Walker for cheap, or maybe I'm believe that Christian McCaffrey is going to have a healthy year here, right? And even though his auction value is in a similar kind of tier as Bucky Irving, his potential upside, healthy, you could make a really strong argument for. And so I think that's something that's super helpful. It also gives you that opportunity too. And we kind of talked a little bit about this in last week's podcast, but in thinking around, like, who are the guys that you want people to drop money on? So if you're that person that's like, no, Christian McCaffrey is like, I just can't deal with it. The ankle, the calf, all those injuries, it just seems like he's going to be injured again. I absolutely can't. I personally can't get to Christian McCaffrey being healthy, right? If you're going in like that, then you can say, you know what, I want to make sure I nominate a guy like Christian McCaffrey, and I'm going to start the opening bid right at his like minimum level. I'm going to start it at like 13, 14, 15 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Because the chances are that you get stuck with Christian McCaffrey there are pretty low, right? Maybe you don't go 15, maybe you go 10, right? And expect somebody to be like, wow, only $10 for Christian. I'll do 11. And at that point you go, whew, all right, now sit back and wait and hope the bidding war takes place. And now you've gotten somebody that's, taking a player that you don't want off of the queue, and you're taking funds away from another manager, so that hopefully the player that you do want, they don't have the funds to spend on.
Yeah, dude, Seth, you hit that one right in the head, because I do this also. I'll look at the values and see, like, okay, what's the minimum starting price? And like most auction drafts, everyone starts out $1, $2, $3, $6, $8.
That's
I'm
just
looking at
laziness on my part. Just throwing that out. That's just sheer laziness on my end. Same thing when it comes to like bidding on a player. Like I'm the person that's like $1. Yep, $1.
Oh yeah, you have to $1 more.
Click up 10 times and then push the button. It's just like, nope, $1. $1.
I'll do that too, but if I could see, like, if I see the draft started early, Ashton Genty being a rookie running back, everyone's favorite rookie coming in,
mm-hmm.
I know he's going to go for higher than 23. So why not just automatically start 25, knowing that, okay, yeah, he's gone for as high as 31, but I've also seen him go even higher than that in other drafts too that I haven't added in this thing. So that's another benefit of this tool, is it's continuously growing. It's continuously being added to. It's nothing that's ever going to be like stale. It's going to be up to date as I add in. I just have a couple more drafts add in, but as I've talked to you many times about, Seth, we've had some bugs that we've had to work out, and you've worked them out. And I greatly appreciate everything you've done with this. And like I said, dude, it's my favorite tool. But like, people will say, like, all right, well, how can I use this to find a sneaky player, like a sleeper? And you look at like all those, like everyone out there, it's really hard to find sleepers anymore, because every site, every podcast, there's always something out there you can find from anyone and everyone. We're here. This gives you a better idea, I feel like, of some good sleepers. And like looking at one, I could say is going to be very draft dependent. Is Tyrone Tracy. Now he has a value of max $10, but a minimum of $3. If anything happens in New York next week, which is the draft is 8 days away because we're doing this on a Wednesday night. 8 days away. If something happens during that weekend, Tracy's going to be losing value like crazy. But if not, no, he's definitely one sneaky player that I like to look into getting.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's helpful with this too. One, I completely agree with you with Tyrone Tracy. One, he was one of those running backs last year that was like super cheap. Most of the time, you're getting them off of waiver wires, or if you're in a dynasty draft, you probably got them in like the third round, depending on when you drafted. So
Fourth round of waiver wire even.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like even in dynasty, you may have gotten him at an absolute steal compared to what he produced for you in that first year. What's nice about something like this too is you can sort by that minimum price value, and so you can do it ascending or descending. So if you click minimum twice, it'll change the way that it's sorting it. And so right now it's sorting it by the cheapest valued player out there. And so there's going to be a lot of $1 players out there that you can kind of go through and see, what are the people that you're getting for a buck, right? And to me, this is always one of those things I want to have in my pocket, a bunch of $1 players, because we all know that it's going to get to that point at sometime, right? It's just a matter of when. Some drafts, I like to go real hot and heavy early on. I get my studs and I'm sitting waiting for a while, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna put Rashad White out for a buck, and somebody jumps at $2. I'm like, well, not gonna
wasn't meant to be
challenge you there because like I've already spent so much, and so like
right.
I always want to have this running list of these $1 players that I can keep throwing out there, and so I can do this, and I can sort it by position, and then go to that minimum section, and then I can start kind of going through, and I can also look at like, all right, well, these guys that are here, if I sort by minimum, you got guys like Zamir White up there, Audric Estime, like
Chris Rodriguez.
I always feel like I mess up his name, but the dude in Denver, like guys like that, is that a person I think is going to have an opportunity this year? I mean, a lot of people thought he was going to have an opportunity last year, and it turned out Jaleel McLaughlin wasn't that his name?
Jaleel McLaughlin. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, right. I was like, I don't know if I got the last name right, but that's your type of $1 player, right? That's the guy that's deep on your bench. That's a player that you can find by just sorting for that minimum and just kind of going through and looking and see like well, who's out there that we can kind of look for and see maybe a guy like Jonathan Brooks, right? He's another minimum $1, has a maximum of 7. Maybe that's a guy I want to keep in my pocket as that $1 player and just wait for other people to get heavy on running backs, wait for other people to spend some more cash. And when I have that late opportunity, I can go, Jonathan Brooks, $1 and hope the knee is good and he's able to come back to what people, were hoping for.
Another thing to look at too, like Seth, like I love how we have times drafted. So each time that these drafts are entered, that counts as one draft. And you can see at that line where it says 6 drafts, 5 drafts, and like there'll be some you'll go through and you'll say, well, okay, why was Jordan James drafted twice?
Yeah.
And you can kind of look down at the timeline as we have down here and kind of see, well, that doesn't really go out well, but
it's a straight line down.
Yeah, he went for $2 max, $1, but $1 also. But that was in the middle of January was when he was caught. So you can kind of get an idea of, what some people say, like, all right, they start hearing sleepers. And then next thing you know, Jordan James will be in 3 drafts again.
Yep.
It's kind of like it's great to see something cool like that because it gives you an understanding of okay, like why is this person going from being drafted to undrafted or vice versa? Why was he not being drafted and now all of a sudden he is? This is a fun tool to use that to kind of get an understanding because then you start doing your own research.
Yep.
Everyone loved Ollie Gordon a couple years ago. Ollie Gordon's been a kind of a bust. He didn't do that good this year at Oklahoma State. But once again, he's been drafted in 3 drafts. Why? Because there's always that one manager who always believes in
There's
last
always
year's
that
talent.
one.
And that's all you need. Yeah, they spent a max of $5 at one point, but also someone also got him for $1. And at that point, that's a good value because worst case scenario, you're just throwing them off your bench anyways and picking up someone else. No big deal.
And to that point, one more feature that you can do, and it's still early in the season, so there's not really much that you can do with this right now. Excuse me. Is where it says select date range. When we get further into the actual, when we get closer to August, this feature is going to become so much more important because you can actually set the time frame that you want to look at. And so you can, you have 2 windows open. You can be like, all right, well, what was their value pre-draft? What was their value in August? What was their value in here? And right now we've only had a couple months of I'm not gonna say me doing these drafts. A couple months of you doing these drafts,
Yeah.
Ryan. And so like the it's not going to be super telling at the moment, but as soon as we hit draft, you can start going. All right, give me the drafts from May 1st on, and you'll be able to start to see like, okay, well, where do these values change? Does Genty go to go to a running back needy team where it's like, oh, he is locked and loaded behind a good offensive line, and he's going to get every touch. Genty is like he's going to be up there with the top of the top running backs. Or does he go to a spot where you're like, why did they draft him? They have 2 established running backs already, a lead back, a change of pace back, and they brought him in, or maybe he goes to an abysmal franchise that you're like, oh great, he's going to get 300 touches and he's going to average 1.7 yards per touch. Awesome,
Right?
and then you can see that value just drop because everybody's initial reactions to it. And so that select date tool will give you that ability to kind of see like, all right, give me this little snapshot of time and then give me this little snapshot of time. And I really want to see what happens with this person's value throughout that time. And that chart at the bottom, if you're looking at just an individual player, you can see that course throughout. Again, it's a little tricky now because there's not a ton of drafts at the moment, but you'll be able to see just what happens to a player's value over time, and those different drafts as individual data points in there.
Yeah, I could do like a quick one like Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
Like that value is astronomical.
Yeah.
You got Kelce max of 7, minimum of $1. Mark Andrews max 11, minimum of 4. So you kind of have an idea of a tight end range that you can use that. So it's great too. And I even like it too because you actually even have kickers on here.
Yeah. Right now you only got the 2 tight ends selected, so you can't see the kickers there. You gotta get all the players
go
in,
back
and then
out.
go to position, and then you can see the kickers in there.
But we don't. Oh, there's kickers in here.
Mm-hmm.
So some people have actually drafted kickers because they use these as draft picks. But even if you have actual, because I'm actually in a Dynasty league that does kicker points, and I actually get like 30 plus points a game with some certain kickers in certain weeks. So this is even another good offset with special teams. So it's not just all the offensive players; it's also your kickers too. So because no matter what, kickers matter.
Yeah, kickers are people too.
Yeah, what a fun man, dude! I just love this tool. I'm glad we were able to get on here and do this today. And for any of you guys out there who are looking forward to using it, I will have this linked in the description down below, so you guys can go use it all day, every day.
Yeah, and if anybody's out there and they're like if you see anything wrong with it, like I noticed one thing right now. Like I'm gonna go fix it either tonight or tomorrow. The little fact that it says null under position, which means that there's somebody out there that doesn't have a position tag to them. So I'm gonna go into the data and find where that issue is, and we're gonna clean that up. So if anybody out there notices anything, hit me up on Twitter. My DMs are open. Just send me a message, let me know. And also if there's something that you're really interested in, let me know. And it's something that Ryan and I are constantly trying to think of ways to improve this type of thing. We have it right now developed because it's things that we legitimately use when we're doing these types of drafts. When we're in auction drafts, we're looking at stuff like this to be able to see where people are at. We gave you a bunch of use case scenarios now. So if there's something that you're like, hey, Seth, if you could do this thing, that would really help me out, send me a message, because I will do my best to try and make it happen. But if we hear nothing, then we're gonna be me and Ron are gonna be like, hey, we're still rocking the tool the way it is, and
We're perfect.
We are perfect. My wife tells me that I'm not all the time. That's why I grow as a human. And so that's what we need in life, is somebody to tell us that that we have ways to get better.
All right, so well, this was a great episode, man. Glad to have you on. Love it. Definitely be getting you on more. We'll definitely, if anyone, like Seth already said, if you got questions, we'll try to help you guys out. But for the Absolute Auction Podcast, we'll catch you guys next week.
Later.